in our panel of political strategists, Grahame Morris and Bruce Hawker. Here we are again. Grahame, let me go to you first on the leadership question. Well, just on this news I mentioned that Channel 10's put to air just in the last 15 minutes, that there's some constitutional eligibility question around Peter Dutton. What's that about?
Well, as I understand, I thought we all knew, but in an earlier life, Peter Dutton did have, he and his dad, I think, or he and his wife, I think it was he and his dad, ran a few childcare centres. Good on them. Lovely small business, looking after the kids of the future. But I thought that he'd either divested himself of that. His family probably still own them, so they should. But I thought he divested his interest, or that it's sort of so remote as not to be relevant.
Yeah, I mean, the question would be whether he owned them at the time of the last election, whether he, had an office of profit under the Crown when he stood at the last election. Yeah. We've seen in the previous High Court rulings, doesn't matter about previous elections, too late, can't change the history there. But if, this Parliament, he's ineligible. Look, he's saying apparently not a problem, that the lawyers are confident. And can I just tell you, Labor's also let me know this information did not come from them. If this is a hit on Peter Dutton, it has not come from Labor. The timing, Bruce, with these things is always fascinating.
Exquisite.
Anyway, we'll see where that goes. One can only speculate. But getting to Malcolm Turnbull's leadership then, well, Grahame, you've been talking to some of the Libs today. What are you picking up? Where are things at?
Yeah, I haven't talked to the Cabinet ministers because they're sort of bound. I talk to the people who would have to shift. They either phone me or I had a chat to them. And I can tell you, despite what commentators or radio people might say, Malcolm Turnbull was there at the end of the week and he'd be there at the end of the month. They're all a bit sensitive, and certainly for a couple of hours today, things got out of control and nobody knew what to do about it. But as of now, come the end of the day, people have pulled back. They've had a look and they've said, almost a few boxes to tick and cross. If there was a change, would it be a change for the better? Would the economic story be better? Would 2 or 3 states swing en masse? All of those sort of things. Would my seat be safer? And there weren't too many ticks in many of the boxes.
And this is the calculation, isn't it? It's would Dutton or Turnbull win more seats, right? At its rawest form, that's the calculation.
Yeah, that's right. And those whose seats count are essentially saying, look, we're better off staying with Malcolm, enough of them, better off staying with Malcolm and crossing our fingers that things come good. But they are not happy at all with the instability. They're not happy with the undermining at all. And, nobody is blaming Peter Dutton. But there are a couple there who have set out to undermine the government, and what they've done is undermined the future of these backbenchers, and that's got them pretty grumpy.
Yeah, and I picked up some of that anger as well today, although others do.
But can I just say, David, tomorrow's party room with the Prime Minister, when he goes in with this new environment pitch and the new energy pitch, he'd want to be very careful and very understanding that most of these backbenchers are saying, well, at least sort of Barnaby and Eric and whatnot, they said, thank you, Prime Minister, for the change. One individual did not say thank you. But there are a lot of these people who went out and battered last week for the Prime Minister and the policy and on the weekend and are feeling quite bruised now that there's been another change. So the Prime Minister tomorrow, I think, you doesn't have to listen to me.
Well, what about Josh Frydenberg? He's been 6 months.
And Josh, I would be very sensitive to the bruised people on the backbench.
Bruce, the pro-Dutton argument that's been put to me today is that he has far more cut through. The Prime Minister, they see, does not have the ability to win arguments, nor empathise with ordinary voters, for various reasons, his wealth and so on. This is the view put by those who say Dutton would stand a much better chance, not just in Queensland but elsewhere as well, of taking the fight up to Labor and winning. What do you think, as a strategist, someone who understands Queensland well as well? Who would do a better job of winning seats?
Well, I think Dutton would do better in Queensland. I think he would fit the mould much more. He's a Queenslander. He's taking a hard line on issues that Queenslanders probably feel more in touch with him on, such as immigration. You know, he's always stoking that fire. So I do think that there are some pluses for him in Queensland. And of course, one thing he'd be looking at, he would be holding his own seat of Dixon, which is marginal. If he was the opposition leader, it would certainly strengthen his hand there. So there's a lot for him in going for the leadership sometime between now and the election. I think the other thing that he has going for him for waverers is that he seems more authentic in a way than the Prime Minister. And I don't mean that I agree with that level of authenticity that he pushes, but he seems to believe in things more than Turnbull. Turnbull has basically been, as one commentator said today, eviscerated, gutted. You know, he no longer believes in anything in the eyes of a large part of the public. And he continues...
Well, just on that, Bruce, I mean, just on that, I mean, Grahame, do you agree that, you know, maybe he had to do this to buy internal peace, but it does underline again this criticism that, you know, he's willing to... that he's hollow, that he's willing to sell out on what he's previously argued for, in this case, emissions reduction. Yeah,
look, I understand that, but if you can't get the blinking thing through the Parliament, you know, at some stage you've got to stop belting your head against a brick wall. It hurts.
Yeah, but you pay a price for it.
No. He was flogging a dead horse, Bruce, unless your lot were going to go with him. Well, and there was no certainty on that.
Well, our lot today in question, Tom, are making it quite clear they wanted to sit down and talk to him, see the legislation, discuss it all. And of course, he doesn't want to do that because what he's really scared of is his own backbench. The problem I think that we have now, or the Liberals have now with Turnbull, is that if he stays, Abbott will just continue to undermine him. That's a very bad thing going into an election.
But you know, but you have no idea how messy a change would be.
I do know.
You know, when we're on Queensland...
I do know.
Yeah, you do know.
It's a terrible problem they've got. Whatever way they go, it's a terrible problem they've got. Whether they stick with him and stay with the undermining, or they change, and then you've got a leader who wasn't elected by the electorate taking over. You've got the same problems that we had with Gillard. You've got the same problem now with him as you had with Rudd when he walked away from the emissions trading scheme.
This is the opportunity, you know, the transactional cost, I should say. And that clearly, Grahame, would be weighing on the mind. Look, they've got to weigh up who's going to win seats, but then they've also got to weigh up, you know, do we really want to go through the grief? We've seen what damage, lasting damage it causes.
And once you open the door, you know, who knows, who says there's only going to be one candidate? What would happen with the current Prime Minister? All of that's very untidy. And while we're on that, we're talking about Queensland before. Today, at a very sensitive time, the Queensland State President of the Liberal National Party bought into this, somehow or other encouraging the Queensland members of the Parliament to back Dutton. Now, I've seen some outrageous things from the organisation, but this one takes the cake. And federal executive, the federal president, should be out there telling this bloke to go back into his box. There are three prongs in the Liberal Party. There's the mum and dad branch members, and God bless them. There's the organisation itself, which organises campaigns. And there's the Parliamentary Party. It does policy and leadership. The organisation does not interfere in leadership. And this Queensland bloke, who has a terrible record of the state politics anyway, should pull his head in.
They haven't done terribly well in Longman or the state election there in Queensland. Look, Scott Morrison made a similar, perhaps not quite so bluntly as Grahame there, but a similar point. He should probably stick to the organisational side of things, leave the parliamentary leadership to the parliamentary team.
Sure,
look, the other issue that's been put to me today is, you know, if there were to be a change, and you know, you'd have to reshape the cabinet because you've got to bring in all the people to help get you there. Bring back Tony Abbott, Eric Abetz, whatever that would happen. You're going to have a bunch of resignations, and they would include Malcolm Turnbull, you know, maybe Christopher Pyne or Julie Bishop or whoever were to be dropped might go. If Dutton were to become Prime Minister, he'd have to go to an election quick, smart. Bruce, do you agree?
Not necessarily. I think he actually probably has to spend some time getting his face in front of the public a bit more, being seen to be a strong man as the leader, not
What
just...
if you had a bunch of by-elections on the cards, though, from the people who are no longer in cabinet and have decided, no thanks, I'm not going to stick around?
That would be devastating, of course, and that would probably force him to go to the elections earlier. I don't know that they would go to that point, though. I think their loyalty to the Liberal Party would probably outweigh their feeling of hurt.
Maybe you're right, and we're this close. They're this close to an election anyway.
Yeah, indeed, and so I don't really see that, but I do see just pain ahead for the Liberal Party, whatever the way they go, and it'd be interesting from Grahame as to how they think, how he thinks that Turnbull got himself into this mess. I think it was largely because he could never ever be the things that a large section of the Conservative voting public wanted him to be, and every time he tried to to sort of be a bit of each, he was a bit of nothing, and that's really where he's finding himself now. I don't think he'll survive in the leadership despite these problems, but he may. But if he does, he'll be limping to the election. Yeah,
well, I don't know, Grahame, if you want to respond there on how he got into this problem.
It's a bit of a pickle, but he just needs that little bit of person management. He's lost a couple of really senior people in his office that they're vacant. He almost needs a few people there who can talk to the right wingers, who can talk to the the middle of the road sort of people, and just listen to them. I think the Prime Minister could do well to get off the campaign trail, stop running around for a little while, and just go and listen to the backbench and see what he can do to help them win their seats.
Yeah, no, it's not bad advice at all. But right now, I mean, Peter Dutton has not said he's challenging. We're not aware of anyone planning to move a leadership spill, and we're not aware that there's a majority to get rid of him. So I think, Grahame, you're probably right. But for now, at least, Malcolm Turnbull survives. Just before we go, that story from Channel 10 that we mentioned about Peter Dutton potentially being ineligible to sit in Parliament. This has just broken this afternoon due to his family's financial interest in I think it's some childcare centres. Hugh Remington at Channel 10 has said this was not a leak. He has been looking at the pecuniary interest register for a long time and looking at various people, including Peter Dutton. So the important thing is the journalist who's broken this has said it is not a leak. So those suggesting someone who wants to stop him becoming leader leaked this to Channel 10. The journalist who's broken the story says no, it's his own investigations. Just wanted to clear that up. We better go to a break, Grahame. Bruce, thank you. We'll see you next week.
See you, mate.
All right, quick break and back with the last word.